Hi, everyone. This would be considered probably part three, which I'm going to put in the description some links to the part one and part two. I had another prophetic dream, and this one is insightful as to the climate that we're currently in and what we can do when we recognize what's really going on here and the instructions I was given about what is necessary at this time. So this can be a macro idea of collectively what's happening in our world, but it also can be micro, where we have a sense that things are crumbling and our world is unrecognizable. Our personal world might be unrecognizable. There might be feelings of being in survival mode or feeling attacked or feeling unstable, unsafe, for whatever the many scenarios that can produce feelings like that. So this dream has the same theme that part one and part two did, where it keeps leading us to an inner place of safety. And so the dream itself, though, in the understanding of what's really happening here now, gives us the kind of, when you're tempted, the fight, flight, or freeze comes into play when you feel like you're being attacked or something has to happen in order for you to survive. This dream gives us an understanding and a helpful visual as to why we can release that initial reaction and go and do action wise, but not really action wise, but focus in on what you really, really need right now and what would be helpful right now. So it is a good way to pivot from our reactiveness to everything. It's everything is very reactive. And in the reactiveness, there can be create more and more anxiety and more stress. And if we can pause before we react and then make a choice to do something that is really, really needed at this time and serves what you really need, that is very helpful, right? So anyway, I'm going to tell you the dream, and so you can keep it as a visual because I have been using this consistently as an understanding to help pull myself away from reacting um, and thinking that I have to do something in order to counter this or to be safe or all those things. And then I remember, okay, the dream, this is what's going on, this is what I need to do. And it helps so much with the recentering, the sense of finding that space, like just even a minute of a space where you can breathe. So anyway, let me tell you the dream. So in this dream, we are all living in some big city. And I say we all, there were just a lot of people. And we were inside, we were inside a building having a normal life, right? We were eating or something, I don't know. But we lived in a city like New York or Chicago, lots tall, tall buildings. And we hear these planes going by. And they definitely are like bomber planes. They're not commercial jet planes, they're bomber planes. And we're curious, what's that noise? And so we walk out into the streets and we look up into the sky and we see our country's bombers in the sky. And it looked like it reminded me of the World War II movies I would watch a lot with my dad. And, like during London and the blackouts and things like that, that was what the bomber planes looked like in the sky. And the idea was that they, like in London, they were the bomber planes that were going out to protect the country and against a foreign enemy, against somebody who's coming in and something is coming in to try to protect us or to attack us. So that's what oh my gosh, we must be under attack. And then we watch as these bomber planes are actually bombing our city. So they were not defending us against an outside enemy. They were bombing all of the buildings in which we were all living. And we see this, and all the buildings are like exploding, and then they're all crumbling down. And for a moment, we're in shock. Like we don't know what's happening because we first think we're being attacked and we're protected and we're all defending a common, our country. And then we realize, oh my gosh, they're attacking their own country. So in this moment, I have this full realization and I say, oh my gosh, we are attacking ourselves. And there was a pause of that sinking in to my psyche. And it was a full realization that we were causing our own destruction. In other words, we were taking all of our systems, all of everything that we live by in this country and in our personal world, and it's all crumbling. We're attacking ourselves. And the key idea was nobody wins here. There was no winning. It wasn't that there was someone in power that was going to take over and then there were no, it was everybody collectively unified. Everyone is at the same time being affected by this. And it was even this idea of the bombers that were bombing our cities, that there was nothing left for the bombers either. It was just like destroying ourselves. And it just was incredulous. It didn't make any sense, but that's what was happening. And it was this sense like, this is what's happening. And when you recognize what's happening, everybody at the same time said, oh my gosh, this is what's happening. The only thing to do was to find a safe place. Everybody starts going off into their communities, into their smaller groups, and then everybody is scattered looking for a safe place. And we found them in the bottom of the buildings. So everybody was going deep under the buildings and almost like in a a fallout shelter or some dugout or something like that. But everybody was doing the exact same thing. And everybody was finding their space and they were going with their communities together. And we all just went into these safe places. And I was with my community and we're in this room and we have a sense of, okay, so it didn't feel like we were alone. It was a wonderful sense of like community where we were in our small groups. And the only thing to do was to find a place of safety and wait it out. And when everything crumbles and everything is destroyed, that we will exit our safe places and then we will rebuild. And in that recognition, this is all we can do right now. This is all we can do. So there was not a sense of calm, but a sense of understanding that we were doing the thing that would be the most helpful for everyone. And it wasn't like a time where anybody was communicating with anybody else. It was just, that's what everybody had to do. And everybody was affected. There wasn't one group that wasn't affected. It wasn't like anybody could be out. This one group got to be out there and they were safe. It was everybody needed to find this safe place and wait it out. So then there was a sense of trying to be quiet and trying to like turn off the lights, kind of like the blackouts. Don't draw attention to yourself. Just be in this space with your community and wait it out. But there was also a sense that people were scrambling, looking for their safe place, looking for a place that they could go in their communities. And we hear a group of people outside of the door, on the other side of the door. And we think at first we're like, oh, they're gonna open this door and they're going to try to get into our space. And so there was a little on guard feeling like, uh-oh, what's going to happen? Because the sense of survival, everybody's in a survival mode and they're not thinking correct. Like we're not, when you're in survival, you're only thinking about survival, right? So what happens was the door opens and we see a man standing there and he was like the front of the group and he's standing there. And there was a moment like, uh-oh. And then there was a man in our group who stood up and approached the door. And so now you have an open door, you have these two men, and then you have people behind them, their groups behind them. And suddenly the men recognize each other. And they recognize at the very same time that they're friends and that they are neighbors. And as soon as they had that look in each other's eyes and see, oh my gosh, we're friends. I know you. Oh, we're neighbors. Soon as that recognition happened, what do? They hug. They hugged. And then there was this, oh, okay, okay. And I don't know what happened in that moment. It didn't continue as terms of like, did they come in? Did we share our space with them? But it was the sense, the feeling was heightened awareness. What's going to happen? Are they going to try to take over our space? And then it was the recognition. Oh, they're our neighbors. And as soon as the recognition happened that they're our neighbors, all that feeling went away. And there was a sense of unity and community. So let me tell you how I'm using that dream. It's if you start to become very aware of how you're feeling in these, let's say, next 2 weeks, let's call it, I'm recording this in mid-September. So 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I notice the feeling. The first thing I notice is there it goes. I can feel my nervous system rev up. I can feel that sense of, okay, I've got to do something. I've got to go, I got to do something. I got to say something. I got to, that sort of intense feeling. And I remember the dream and so now I can equate that feeling with, oh, I feel this way because everything is crumbling. Like it feels like everything is, sort of like the demolition. If you want to rebuild a house or you want to make the house different, you have to demo. You have to you take down the drywall, you have to start from scratch and rebuild. So I'm like, okay, this is the stage we're in. This is the step we're in. This is what is happening now. There will be a time for rebuilding. There'll be a time for all of that later. But right now, while this is happening, what am I to do? And then I remember the dream where it talked about being in your communities, being in your, whatever your community is, it doesn't matter. Like every group, it didn't matter the groups, anything at all. It didn't matter their idea, nothing. It was just everybody had their little communities. And I think that that's really important. Everybody has to find their people, their communities, that place where they're not feeling alone, where they're feeling like they have a local group, a small group. It could be on Zoom. It doesn't have to be local. Could be let's say you're, do a meditation circle on Zoom or something like that, anything at all, where you can have this sense that you're in a community. And then finding that safe place is very much this sense of an inward. So if you think about a building in a dream, it's really the underground is really the place that is our innermost world. That place that we can go where it's quiet, where there's a sense of the chaos and everything happening above the ground is not visible there. It's not there. It's your underground. And in the underground, you feel cocooned. So everybody has their own way of doing that. It could be a walk in nature. It could be a phone call with a friend. It could be breath work. It could be, meditation. It could be reading. It could be anything at all that you'll notice when you're doing it, how you feel. How do you feel? Can you take a breath? Can you sort of cocoon yourself in this space, in this loving, nurturing space, and let the chaos of the world and all of that going on just be like above you, and go in and find that place where you can feel grounded, right? So under the ground, you're in the roots of everything. You're just grounded. You're as close to the grounding frequency that you can get, and stay there. Just stay there. And if you find yourself above the ground again and going, oh my God, what's happening? And reactive, this is how I've been using the dream, is then I've been like, okay, okay, this is my cue to go into that space. And how can I do that right now? How, where, whatever, wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, sometimes it's just taking a breath, closing my eyes. Um, but the key also to this dream, which I think is really helpful, and I'm going to leave it at that, and let, after I tell you this other key element, and let you use this dream, which I call a prophetic dream, where it helps us to understand what's really going on here and what is needed for the time being, for where you're at. And the other part of that dream, of course, was when the group came to our door. And that recognition of friends, or that recognition of our neighbors. Because in this dream, nobody was getting a pass. This was happening collectively to every group. So whether you're in a personal situation where it seems like there's winners and losers, or you're in a conversation where it seems like there's one wants to win and the other one trying to make one right and the other wrong, it's all coming from this sense, this deep, deep sense that our structures are falling. And we are not in a place of rebuilding and we are needing to find that safety, that centeredness, that grounding while this is happening. And it was accepting that this was happening. This is happening. And here, I'm going to go off a little bit from the dream, because it wasn't in the dream, but this sense of there is a rebuilding stage. This isn't all doom and gloom. This is what is happening now. And then we will have a time to reap, a time to sow, a time to plant. And this is the time, as it's all happening, to find your safe place, find your community, and recognize the neighbor, like that sense of neighborly and friends, that there is that recognition that we are all experiencing this, and we are neighbors. We're all neighbors. We live in the same building, the same home, the same communities, the same, cities, country, all of that. And even worldwide, we are all neighbors, right? And in that space of neighbor, there are elements of love in this dream, right? That sense of hugging, that they hugged, and that sense of community that we're really longing for. It's like, this is where we find it. This is how we find it. We find it in our inner spaces and in our groups, in our small groups, and sort of recognizing the globalness and the unity of all things, and that there isn't going to be a necessary winner here, but there is going to be a rebuilding here. And when that time comes, we'll know it. But in the meantime, this is what we can do to help weather the times that we're in. So I hope that was helpful to you. And I'll put the link below of what the other videos that I also think might be helpful to listen to. Okay, thanks. Take good care.